Okay, come on. Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. It is December 2021. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Sebastian Stuart. Thank you, Sebastian. Where are you calling in from?
From Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to see you face to face finally.
Well, it's an
And
honor and a pleasure to see you.
yeah, and just go with your hunch. You put the answers in the questions, answers into your own context. The first question is, what's the best thing for a human being?
What's the best thing for a human being? Boy, you start small, don't you? Um, that's such, I can answer that in a word or two. I think the best thing for a human being is to live a life that has some meaning and standards.
Yes. Wow. Meaning and standards. I like that. Standards is a word I don't get often, so that was good. And what's your favorite form of information, Stuart? How it comes into you?
I read the New York Times every day. I have all my life. My dad read it. I was born and raised in New York City. So it's my hometown paper. And my first word was paper because I saw my dad reading it so much. And we also got the Herald Tribune, but that was a Republican paper, although moderate Republican. And my parents were staunch, well, my dad at least was a staunch Democrat. So, but I would say the New York Times is my number one. I used to watch Rachel, but then I got too depressed and I stopped watching the news, which I know that's what the fascists want. So we all have to find the energy to come back with some renewed energy and fight them when the elections get a little closer. But so I haven't been watching Rachel for a while, and I guess those are my two favorites. The Times by far, though, I read it every morning and enjoy it.
That was beautiful. I am totally a newspaper guy too, especially New York Times. And why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because they're curious. We're innately curious. I think people just have bottomless curiosity, and I think it started with hunters and gatherers. Where's the next animal we can kill? Well, if we gather this information about where their hooves are, it'll lead us to them. So information is a very, I think, primal need that goes beyond sort of maybe what it's been confused with lately, which is Instagram and girls who are way too airbrushed for their age, and just the whole thing.
Great. You are a beautiful wordsmith. I'm really honored and feel it's such a privilege to be talking to someone who's so good with words. I love words. Do thoughts create emotions?
I think they do, absolutely. If you've got some bad shit you're latching onto and it's in your thoughts and in your brain, it's sort of hard to separate the two, don't you think, really, Jerry? I mean, cut and dried, emotions and thought are intertwined, but I would say a definite yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because we invented the words thinking and feeling, but I don't think you can separate them. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But because well, the next question sort of follows up with that. Is thinking more innate or more invented?
It's more innate. It's completely something we're born with. It's the human. If you look at little babies, they're wildly curious. Their eyes are wide open. They're looking at everything. They were born with that the thought processes, they're just hereditary. I mean, evolutionary and I don't know
Yeah.
if hereditary is the right word, but you may not think I'm such a good wordsmith in 20
No,
minutes.
I mean, hereditary is like it's that DNA. It's sort of like I'll just throw in this question out of the script sort of because I'm curious. Longevity in one's life is more determined by their DNA, which is hereditary, or by their lifestyle choice. I know it's both and it depends, but just in general, what do you think you would lean more towards? Hereditary or lifestyle choice?
In terms of longevity,
Yeah.
I think lifestyle choice. I really do. I read a story in the Times a few years ago about a city in Southern California that had no virtually no cancer, virtually no heart disease, virtually no diabetes, all those lifestyle kind of diseases. And it was because, I might get the religion wrong, but the town, maybe you know it, is almost 100%, I think, 7-day Adventist, and there's no meat allowed, no alcohol allowed, no blah 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 allowed. And look at the results. These just came about. These people are incredibly healthy, and it's those lifestyle choices, that
Yeah.
we all made during our misspent youths.
Misspent use. I like that. Okay, Stuart, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
I don't know what I think until I make a huge mistake and realize what an asshole I am.
That is great. Well, I got it from McLuhan. I don't know what I think until I say it. And Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it down.
I really like both of those, and I think that's really true for all of us, especially when we're kind of having a conversation and we sort of forget the fact and we're all engaged intellectually. Then one thing leads to another. Just like great acting, you take it from your other actors and feed off of it, and these things feed off of each other. And so I a lot of times I don't know what I think until I say it, but a lot of the times I say it without thinking.
That's right. That's spontaneity. I found this great line once. I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity.
Oh, I love that. You know what Don DeLillo said?
What?
I would have I'd be obsessive compulsive if it wasn't for my ADD.
Well, the other thing you evoked there was really good was Frank Zappa says, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure. So your thing saying, I don't know what I think until I make a mistake. Humans tend to not want to have mistakes, make mistakes, but making mistakes is human. That's what makes us human.
It's part of the whole thing. My light just dropped. Well, oh well. Yeah, it's totally human, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's how in a lot of ways, how we grow. We make mistakes, we have failures, we learn from them. A failure. I used to do some writing for Tom Peters, this business guru, great guy, very, very charismatic and smart. And, he always said the learning curve ends at the grave, and.
Wow. Ends at the grave. Yeah. Can humans think without language?
God, I don't know how we could ever answer that. I don't know. I mean, I would have to say no.
Yeah.
Can't think without language.
Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Sebastian, what do you do when language doesn't work, when it breaks down?
How do you mean breaks down in a life situation, or breaks down as written, or?
Well, let's just say, again, you put in the context you want. Say you're trying to communicate with someone verbally and communicate, the language is not working. So
Even though
again,
you're both speaking the same language.
right. And again, it's like, how do we define what language is? But let's just, in a general context, two people are talking, spoken word, it's not going well, language is breaking down. What do you do?
It's a really good question. I think you have to rethink it. I think you need to take a deep breath and find the ways in which you can communicate and try and build on them. I don't like fighting. I'm a big believer in walking away from a fight, and a verbal fight. And
Yeah.
so I might not be the best, but I'm a total wuss. I just don't want to waste the energy with a lot of negativity.
That's not a wuss in my book. That's a smart person. But it is funny you said deep, breathe deep. I like that. The guy the other day, I says, what do you do when language breaks down? He goes, group hug.
Well, whatever works, you've got to find a way to communicate if you want to communicate. And,
That's it.
but you've got to
That's it.
want to. I think if you want to, you will. A lot of times when things break down, I think one side or the other, or maybe both sides, aren't ready to fix it. They're getting off on the Surus.
That is great. You're anticipating a lot of the questions, so this is fun. In your observations of humans, are humans more thinking or more feeling beings? I know you can't separate them, like we said. It depends, but just what's your hunch or inclination?
I think feeling, I really do. I think feelings are a little bit more primal. They really go back to the very beginning of time. Animals have strong feelings. Animals are sentient beings with very, very strong feelings. You only have to look at a dog and its master for 5 seconds to see that. And I think those are the and then language came later. I don't know when it came. I'm not particularly well educated, but it came along and became part of the whole mix and closely related with the emotions. But I think emotions are the most powerful force in our lives.
Very good. And these are two questions from Alan Turing in 1950. Is thinking a function of the soul?
God, that's a like enough to give me a headache. That may be beyond my intellect. Wait, say it again. Is thinking a
It
function of the
is,
soul?
yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Is thinking a function of the soul? I think that may be above my pay grade, but I would say it's related to the soul, I think,
Yeah.
and by soul, I mean, kindness and all your better angels, those kind of things to me are what the human soul is. And so I think thinking is certainly a big part of that. That's how we learn things. But yeah, I would say,
That
yeah.
Sebastian, that was good because I just added this question recently, and most people go like this: is thinking a function of the soul? And they go, well, what is the soul? They start questioning what, but you sort of have your feelings about what soul is. And that was amazing because these questions are like usually 2 or 3 words, and it depends on which word you're going to grab onto,
Yeah.
and talk about, because somebody might go, well, what does function mean? It's like the next Turing question is interesting. Can machines think?
No, I don't think they can. I think they can be programmed to do a facsimile of thinking, but I don't know. I don't think they are. Machines don't interest me that much. But just to go back to soul a little bit, if you think of the people in your life, like your wife is one of the most soulful people to ever be born on the planet, practically. And when I think of soulful people, they have a certain wisdom, almost a learned and born in wisdom about people, about other human beings. And they're very sympathetic, soulful people. And they're very, you know, I like, I like it a lot. I like those qualities a lot. So,
I
um,
I so agree with you. And I always know an interview is working when either I or the person tears up. And bingo, within 13 minutes, you got me to tear up, dude. Let's hear it for the person who got us together, Susie Williams. I will totally agree with you. A soulful person
I,
indeed.
I'd heard about Susie. I lived in New York and was doing little theater off Broadway and off Broadway. And everyone said, you've got to go see this singer. And I went to a club in the theater district. I think maybe it was Don't Call Mamas. And Susie was appearing with Storm and Norman. And she came out. And first of all, I was dazzled by her beauty, her unique beauty. And she opened her mouth and I was just in love. And I said, I'm going to write a part for this woman. And she is a treasure. And I did, and she did it magnificently. It was a wonderful period. So
She is so happy that you all have reconnected, and this is fun that we're able to do this sort of through Susie. And believe me, she wishes she could be here, but she's always like, I say, Susie, you can watch it on your own, another time. I just appreciate so much the fact that what we're participating in, Sebastian, is live TV. And it's amazing phenomenon. We didn't need a studio. We didn't need cameramen or lighting, basically. We're just, experiencing something that is meaningful to me. So that leads to the next question. Do you more pursue meaning or more pursue happiness?
I think I more pursue happiness. I You have to have meaning and happiness. Again, they're closely related. If I don't have a project, creative project I'm working on, I begin to feel kind of existential and at a loss. And what am I doing here? And oh my God, and it's a big black chasm right over there. I'm going to fall in it and blah, blah, blah. And so, you want meaning. And what was the other thing? The meaning and the,
Well, do you more pursue
oh,
happiness?
happiness. Yeah, no, I really like being happy. There's
Yeah,
times when I've been unhappy, but generally I try and be happy and count my blessings. And I really do like laughing and having fun, and I really think it's important. I wish everybody could have that in their lives, and you know things that make them laugh and make them happy.
yeah,
So
I
I think I
agree.
pursue happiness, but I don't
I
forget meaning. I
Yeah,
just what I just talked about, the sort of existential chasm. That's the search for meaning. I think
yep,
we need meaning in our lives.
indeed. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're just detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
I love your questions, but they do feel a little bit out of my league, some of them. But you'll bear with me on that, right?
Totally. It's totally just your hunch or your guess, or you know,
Can you run the question by me again?
yeah. Are we, or is the brain more detecting consciousness or creating it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
I think again, you can't. There's no rigid line. I think
Yeah,
almost all of these human issues are on a continuum, just the
yeah,
way sexuality is, and so many other things, and all afflictions pretty much, or assets, are on a continuum, and it's a little, you can't be too hard and fast about these things. I don't really. I think it's bubbling, and it's just it's coming in.
yeah. It's both. Yeah, that's fine. Audre Lorde, the poet, says you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer says you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
For get rid of the slave masters.
Well, it's basically, I set up some of my questions with cute quotes. You don't have to apply the quotes, but her thought was you can't dismantle the master's house. So it's sort of like the master's house is maybe metaphorical for who's running things, the government, uh, corporations, your own mind. Like Frank Zappa said, who are the brain police? He didn't say the evil capitalists are the brain police, or what's inside your brain are the brain police. He posed it as a question. So she's saying a statement. She's saying you can't dismantle the master's house, those things that are ruling you, using the master's tools.
I think she's right.
Yeah.
I really do. I think if you think about who the master is, first of all, anybody who is a real master and keeps slaves should be shot.
Yeah.
It's sickening, and it still goes on de facto in a lot of places in the world. Um, but I think you can, but I think certain people, you know, don't want to be good people and don't want to be, they want to get everything they can for themselves, and they really don't care. Like Melania's quote, I don't really care, do you? To me, that summed up the entire Trump administration, to get into politics a little. You know, but I think if someone, is a master, they already are dead in my book, you know? And I
Yeah.
think, you know, I don't know the best means for dismantling, because I think all these A types who kind of run the world, who are almost all men, by the way, men are assholes and pigs from hell, and they are unfeeling often in ways that women just aren't. Just to get a little feminist, I used to do a lot of ghostwriting on business books, and whenever they studied female managers, they were more, again, versus male managers, they were more conciliatory, they were more thoughtful, they were kinder, they sought consensus, they weren't shoving their egos around as much. So it's really a marked thing. And I think more women, I really think if we have more women in the power structures all over the world, and I mean all over the world would be such a better place. I don't think it's easy. I think there'd be less masters. I don't think the women would be interested in that kind of hierarchy and power structure.
I agree. That was well put. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
If I'm going to be able to get to sleep. I just got on a sleeping pill, which I've never been on. I've always resisted. But it was just getting, 3 a.m. and you're wide awake and your legs are kicking. And, it's not fun. Look, it's a little scary. And, so.
Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
I'm not afraid of any ideas. I'm interested in them, old or new.
Beautiful. Yeah. Sebastian, can you conjure up your earliest memory or one of them?
One of my earliest memories is of sleepwalking. I was staying out at the very end of Long Island with some friends. It was just me and the son, my age. I guess I was about 4 or 5, and the mother. It was a sort of a rustic cabin, almost like something out of a Tennessee Williams play or something. And it was all surrounded by potato fields. The very end of Long Island was all potato fields. Now it's all trillionaires' houses. But it was just very surreal. And I woke up in the middle of the field, quite a distance from the house. I was in bare feet. What woke me up was the cold ground, the cold earth. And I just looked around me. I can still remember it vividly now. And there was the endless potato fields and some little lights in the distance. And I thought, well, I looked around and I saw the lights of the house where I was staying. And I knew that's where I had to get back to. So I got back, and the mother was out front in the yard, absolutely frantic, completely frantic. She had found me my empty bed. I mean, you can just imagine what if it wasn't, especially when it's not your own kid, you even feel more responsible. So that's one of my earliest memories.
Amazing. Well articulated too. All of a sudden I was there with you, and it felt like I was in this dream state, the way you were describing it. It was amazing.
You are a sweetheart, young man. And I will always love you for one thing: taking care of Susie Williams.
I try my darndest, believe me.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been together for 25 years and we've been married 20.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
I know, I am lucky. Very lucky. I know that. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
It's a blessing, I think.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, having just written a memoir, I can tell you that the things that stay with you for a reason. And there's some unfinished business there, I think. Not necessarily all the time, but, and, memories there's a lot of really nice memories we all have. And, so that's that.
No, that was good. Tell me, this is 2-part. Someone within your immediate family and then someone outside your immediate family, sort of early on role model, they had an impact on you. And just briefly, what specifically was that impact?
Oh, gosh, I don't know who that would be. Somebody in my immediate, the person in my immediate family who had the greatest impact on was my cousin Tina. She's the reason I wrote my memoir was to do her honor. We were absolute tighter than tight, best of best friends growing up. And then she developed schizophrenia, and she influenced me because she, first of all, she was passionately committed to the civil rights movement. We founded our own, just the two of us, a little civil rights group. We called it YES, Youth for Equality in Society. And we stenciled that onto the back of our denim shirts and went to a folk concert at Town Hall. And we're sure everybody was looking at us and going, oh, those wonderful kids with their civil rights work. Little did they, nobody knew, of course, what the YES stood for. But she had an enormous influence on me. And when she got sick, my world got derailed. And in some ways, it's still playing out many
That
years.
was really well put. And I really visualized it. Just the scenario you spoke of. So outside your immediate family, someone.
Outside the immediate family. Well, would our housekeeper, oh God, I shouldn't bring that up, but would our housekeeper count as outside the immediate family?
Yes, that's literally, and yeah, that's fine. What did you get from your housekeeper?
I got a love for the Detroit Tigers. I
Oh my
got
God.
incredible cakes. I got friendship and some sort of interest and warmth that I maybe wasn't getting from my more immediate family. And I just fell in love with her. We were really very, very, very close. I would go in and sit in the kitchen with her for hours. And she had a good sense of humor. And I just got, I think, an understanding of other people, you know.
Beautiful. Again, I teared up. What was her name?
Ruby Turner.
Oh my God, because I'm from Michigan, so love for Detroit Tigers. That was so great. What'd you get from this? Love for the Detroit Tigers. That is
Well,
so Michigan.
you know what else I did? I wrote away to Al Kaline for his autograph.
Oh my.
And it came back about 2 months later, this on a little piece of paper this big, and one of the edges of the paper was torn. I mean, it came on a little paper like this, and one edge was torn, and it took 2 months to get. I don't know why, but I wish I still had it.
Oh my God, because I have to tell you this. My dad took us to a couple Detroit Tiger baseball games because we were raised in Flint, Michigan, like 60 miles from Detroit. And we had a little container of popcorn, and on the side it said autographs. And we knew we couldn't get to Al Kaline, but my dad's name is Al. So we said, Dad, will you sign it, Al Kaline? So we have some really in common. We both got Al Kaline's autographs, but mine was pseudo.
That's a great story. But who did you think you were kidding? Did you show it to your friends and say, look, Al Kaline signed this?
I forgot how I played it out because I could have done it both ways. Like, this is really my dad's, but it looks cool. And, Al Kaline just died, I think, within the last year. And his obituary was amazing because he was such a good human being.
Well, that's good to know.
Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
They did not. They were very, they were sophisticated New Yorkers, and they were not the religious type, no.
Do you pray?
I used to pray more. Whenever I saw a church, I would go in and light a candle for Tina, my cousin. Wow. And but I stopped doing that. I've thought recently of getting back to it, but it was always very important to me to light the candle and to say hi, Tina, and to just try and conjure her up in my soul.
No, I mean, as much as I was raised Roman Catholic, as much as people turn on the religions they were raised in general. When I ask that question, 90% of people say, I was raised this religion, but I checked out between 13 and 18. But I find that religion taught me ritual, community, singing together, looking at icons like stained glass window. So I know it has disservices, but I like to keep in mind that it also had services. The idea of you lighting a candle and thinking of her, I think is important and, a beautiful thing. Sebastian, if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
After I die,
Yeah.
this way to heaven, dude.
That is good. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
No, evil people exist. I mean, I'm pretty sure about that. I don't think evil is a sentient anything. I think it's part of the makeup of, some people.
How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And this one I'm going to set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you react to the Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Nancy Pelosi said practically the same thing today about those really extreme right-wing new Congress people who are, really bringing evil into the public sphere in the United States. And they're doing this to get famous, to get bookings when they leave, and she said, it's such a fine line because we have to censor them, but that gives them all the oxygen, more time on TV, more time in the newspapers. So that's really what Alan Watts was addressing, I believe, But I find the Fellini quote really fascinating because him needing an enemy, no one else goes in that direction. I need or want an enemy. And I think some people and they're not evil people, but they're just juiced up by having, I think it's more of a rival maybe even than an enemy. But if I was advising people to how to deal with an enemy, I would come down on turn the other cheek, walk away, just write them off, don't see them again. But if you add fuel to it, your own little thing, you're just going to make yourself more miserable, They've got the power over you. You don't want to give them that,
Really well put, because it's also American Indian indigenous people say your enemy's your best teacher.
Yeah. So we've been on a Fellini binge. So when you brought up his name, I was like taken aback for a second. We've been watching, and he is so fucking brilliant. We just saw The Knights of Cabiria. Have you seen that recently?
Yes, I've seen almost all of them.
The end of that movie, the humanity there, and those kids dancing in the street, and she's just been devastated and stolen from and dumped. And she gets up and she's walking with them, and they're singing and dancing to her and the instrument, and then she smiles. She's back in the world, and it's one of the most gorgeous things really I've seen. Just incredible.
You'll love this one. The music that really united Susie and I 25 years ago was she picks me up in her pink Mustang leopard skin seat covers, and I have the tape to put in while we cruise up PCH, the soundtrack to Juliet of the Spirits by Nina Rota.
Wow.
You just go on YouTube and listen to the soundtrack. I mean, you can hear it by watching the movie Juliet of the Spirits, but the soundtrack is Nina Rota at his best doing Italian circus music that is just like mysterious and joyous at the same time.
Oh, I love him. There's a reading on Saturday afternoon. The Woodstock Film Festival is doing a staged reading of a screenplay of mine, and the director wrote me today. So funny, this is today. And she said, I'm thinking about music. Do you see anything? And I said, let's use Nina Rota. And she wrote back and said, I love that idea.
Oh, that is good.
Fellini lives.
Dude, it's like we have this lifeblood between us, and Susie's sort of like the vein that the blood is flowing through.
Now, did she just pick you up off the street with that car? You made it sound like that. And I can see her doing that.
No, we, just to cut to the chase really quick, we had a mutual friend and Susie and that friend had a falling out, and um, I served as sort of the mediator for about a year on the phone. Susie would call me, and we got to know each other deeply on the phone. And then we started to go out on, not really dates so much as just go to a art gallery or a, you know, some event. And that was one of the early events where it was just like the
She knew that
soundtrack.
would get you.
That was the soundtrack for our life, sort of.
This is very indiscreet, but was the third person you're talking about male or female?
Male, male
Male.
poet. Yeah, yeah.
So you saw the opening.
Well, I didn't. I was raised Roman Catholic, and you don't hit on married women. So I wasn't really thinking that. I was just knowing the other guy and Susie had this falling out because he wanted this poetry event to happen of his poems, and she was the producer of the event, and no one showed up, so he blamed her, and it wasn't her fault. She got listed in the paper, and it just didn't work out. So he turned on her, and I was sort of saying, well, I tried to just mediate, and through mediating, we began to know each other deeper.
Yeah. That's a
Right.
great way to
But
meet. Yeah.
right, but she also was married to Bill then, and then it's a long story, but eventually she left Bill for me, which is not like something I'm super proud of. I don't want to break a couple up. The beauty is that Susie and Bill are still great friends. And
Yeah.
I've always been a friend with Bill. So
He's a great guy.
yeah, oh, he's a great guy. Yeah. So James Joyce was the first projectionist. Talk about films. He ran a cinema in Dublin called Volta Cinema. He basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a, a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, I think we're searching for truth. I think if you read a good novel, it has truth in it, and that's what we want, truth about the human spirit, and truths that are, not universal maybe, but you know, are part of everyone's lives, are a part of the human condition. So I think that's what artists you know, take that and frame it with their art. There's a lot of fluff and a lot of boring parts, and you want to cut all those out. You don't want to, just live those. So I think if a great, you know, artist in any field is all about interpreting and searching for these truths. I mean, a lot of these pop singers are, that's what they're singing about, and
Yeah.
so.
No, that was good too, but I'd love to hear your reaction to another filmmaker I'm fond of is Louis Buñuel. He said, "I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it."
That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's very interesting because 99% of people I say that quote to, they go, "That's right." And one person said, "No," because it's implying that why are you seeking something if you're not going to get it? In other words, it's the cliche is that's turned into an archetype is it's not the destination. The journey is more important than the destination. So I say, well, why seek a destination or even name a destination if the journey's more important?
I
So
read someone said, I read this just the other day, or maybe it's a cartoon I saw. It's not the destination, it's not the journey, it's who you're with.
yeah, that's good.
I think
I
that's
like
true. Touring Gary, Indiana can be great fun, and if you're with the right people.
Oh yeah, that's no, I believe it's very true what you just said. So Sebastian, tell us what first attracted you to, your career is sort of like, uh, as far as I know, you suss it out for me, playwright, author, and screenwriter. Those three things. You can like put them in the order they sort of came about. But what first attracted you to pursuing the arts? You're seeing films or you're seeing plays, and then you go, "Oh, I can do that." Like, where was the tipping point?
Well, I went to San Francisco State College in 1967. I was from the East, and I went out there, and I was decided I'd take a theater class, and I was waiting in line to register, and there was this girl in front of me with her friend, and she was all theatrical. She was just acting everything out. She was larger than life. She was hilarious. She was using different voices, typical college student theater major. And I just thought, I really like her. I like this level of exaggeration. I like this sort of larger than life thing. I like this because there was some truth. I mean, there were truths in it. She was talking about what's going on within her life. And it just attracted me. And so I did a little acting at school. And then a couple of us broke out and did a little theater company in San Francisco out in the avenues and or the streets, not the avenues. Then I moved back to New York sort of to be an actor. And I just didn't have I was so desperately insecure and really profoundly insecure and, acting out. I did a lot of acting out in San Francisco, shooting drugs and things like that. And I was a hooker, street hooker. And they were, it was self-destructive behavior, very much so. And I cooled it. I didn't last too long, and then I decided to go back to New York and be an actor. And that was so like going and asking for approval. And I would sweat and I was on one level, I was kind of a wreck. I probably still am. And, so I wrote a play. I sat down and wrote a play about my adventures as a hooker and all that stuff. And Edward Albee read it and gave me a residency at his residential place out in Montauk, Long Island. And someone came, we did a bare bones performance, and someone came up to me afterwards and said, I want to produce this. And I thought, God, being a playwright is easy. Little did I know. And but anyway, it did get done in a bad production, and it's been done once or twice after that by at Ray Cherchez, the Mabou Mind Space on St. Mark's. And so I just kept writing plays, and then you sort of fall into screenplays. And I wrote some with my dear friend Robert Rubinsky, who Susie knows very, very well.
Yes.
Zora's ex-husband. And then I just, then I sort of became a professional writer, did a lot of writing I've written everything you can name. I've written travel books and cookbooks and business books and ghostwritten Times bestseller, and just written anything I could get paid for, I would write it. I was a real slut. And I worked with Mike Millikan, which is probably not a good thing to talk about, but I did. He put me up in this incredibly fancy hotel in Santa Monica for 3 weeks that has a famous fig tree in front of it. And there wasn't much work involved. It was a very surreal experience. But anyway, so I would just do any of these things. And I had screenplays optioned by Sandra Locke and Lee Grant, who is a fabulous human being. Lee made a movie in, I think, 1986 called What Sex Am I? It's so far ahead of its time. It's just an extraordinary movie. And it's about transsexuals, transvestites, men who think they're women. And it's so well done. It's so gutsy for her to do that at that point, at that time. And it's just a fantastic film. And by the way, if anybody watches Jeopardy, there's a trans woman on now who's won for 8 in a row, I think. She's made close to $500,000. She's going to be in the Tournament of Champions. And she's this charming, understated, absolutely lovely woman. Yet when she gets that clicker in her hand, baby, watch the fuck out. Because she is fast. She's so like demure, with her pearls. She's kind of demure. And then, wow, does she come in and she just gets them one after the other. So I think she's fabulous. But anyway, so working with Lee Grant was really a thrill and an honor. We worked on a comedy together with Robert Rubinsky. And Never got it made, but she was, you know, every time we go to her apartment, she'd feed us, and she was just couldn't have been lovelier, really. And I think she's a tremendous talent as an actress. So all these experiences are fun. I really got off going out to Hollywood and driving around and pitching, and I was all glitter dusted, you know, because I loved Hollywood and the movies and all that. And you know, the producer was going, "Oh, this is a waste of time going to this studio or that studio. It didn't pan out." But to me, that just soaking up the whole ambiance. We went to this one. We were pitching a movie about a woman, a middle-aged woman, sort of a Joan Rivers type, who inherits a SRO, single room occupancy hotel, and she wants to clear it out so she can make a lot of money on the apartments, but there's protections, and there's a black kid who lives there with his grandfather, and they sort of become friends and they change each other. And we pitched it to this one executive, and he said, "I love this movie. I love this idea. This is so fantastic. Can you turn the kid into Denzel Washington?" He said it with a straight face. Then another time we went to see this producer. He was kind of a hotshot back then, and he had this beautiful gray bird in a cage. And he said, "Oh, David," he went and took it out of the thing, and he said, "David Geffen gave me this bird." And he started going, putting the whole bird's head in his mouth, mimicking a PJ. I mean, it was like, whatever, bring it on. It's fun.
This is great because it leads into your success now as a novelist. You've been pretty successful writing many books of recent years, and I'm curious because a screenwriting teacher told me a great film or great art, great book is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. A great film or great book is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
I think it plays a pretty big role. You know, I try and ask myself, which I didn't do with my plays. I wrote them very quickly off the top of my head, and they were very visceral. But when I started, by the time I got to screenwriting, and you know, screenwriting is all broken down. It's taught so much. There's the 3-act thing. There's this. There's that. There's this rule and that rule, and so I became, you know, what do I want to accomplish in this scene? I would try and consciously know my intent, which I think is actually a better way to work. Steve, my partner, who you just met, is a far more successful novelist than I am, and he's very much, you know, he said, I know he wants to know what he's writing about before he writes it, and he's had 2 movies made in France where he's a chevalier, and he's had 1 movie made here, and so very proud of him.
Very cool. And so Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing your book?
Not too much at the moment. I'm always aware this is being written for somebody, and you know, I'm trying to entertain, but I don't want to think about the person, because you don't want, you can, oh, am I going to please this one? Am I going to please that one? I do think a creative person has to please themselves, has to do what really lights their fire, and hopefully they'll find the audience. And even if they don't find the audience, I think it's a wonderful thing if people are, I've just taken up painting. I'm 72 and mostly retired, and you know, it's fun. I want to keep my hand in.
I like that. Who did you grow up seeing painting wise, or what artist, you know, visual artist had an impact on you in regards to like how you're pursuing painting?
Well, I wanted to just do it like just like the plays off the top of my head without thinking very much, knowing the look I wanted. I mean, I love surrealism. I love all the great, you know, mid-century abstract expressionists. I love old painting. I love art. I go to the museum and just wander around. And what was the rest of the question? I forget.
Well, it's just like what you sort of said it. Who influenced your painting aesthetic? But it's if you could have any artist, any era, paint your portrait, who would you like?
Who's good at flattering people? I'll take the best flatterer. maybe I would love to be painted by oh God, I got to pass on this. I can't, no one is coming to mind. And I saw a fair amount of art growing up in New York City and Greenwich Village. And there were some artists around us. You know, I love John Sloan, that kind of
Yeah.
New York melancholy,
Yeah.
soulful. I love Hopper, of course.
Yes.
I love the people who capture the loneliness. There's something about a lonely painting, you know, even a landscape that's very evocative and romantic to me. So I would be delighted if Hopper would do my picture.
That's good.
Give him
I
a
like
buzz.
Edward Hopper is a great choice. That's beautiful.
When I see God, I'll ask him to introduce me.
I like that. And Sebastian, what do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
I think cave art is fascinating. I think about it a lot. It's some kind of impulse. It sort of makes me think, you know, that impulse we were talking about earlier, where you have to sort of be creative or things, you wonder about the meaning of life. And also, I think there's a deep urge to represent life. It goes back to what you said about, you know, why do we do it? You know, why do we create art? And I think we want to see ourselves reflected. We want to see our lives reflected, you know, and I think that's why.
Yeah. Do artists have a moral obligation?
You know, I think everybody has a moral obligation.
Yeah.
I really do. We're in tough times in the world right now, and I'm hardly Mother Teresa. I don't get out of the fucking apartment some days. I like a simple life, but I think we all in these times, in all times, you know, just to do a little bit of good here and there, just to be part of the solution and not the problem, and just sort of be reasonable. And I'm very believe in meeting halfway. I'm not a rigid type. I think nobody gets everything. You don't get everything you want in a marriage. You don't get everything you want in a career. You don't get everything you want, you know, in politics. But half a glass is a lot better because a lot of people will be helped by what's in that half glass. So anyway.
Wow, that was beautiful. I really a lot of what you say resonates with my philosophies. I appreciate it because you must also have ESP, Sebastian. Because the next question is, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
I think conviction and then compromise. I think you don't want to separate them. You know, if you have something you believe in desperately and someone wants to compromise it, I think you should say no. But in the real world, in practical world, in politics, I think you should have an absolute rock hard conviction and then be willing to compromise. Because like I said before, the people who we don't want to get hurt, who are getting hurt in our society, if we say we're not budging, they're going to get nothing. If we budge and we talk to the other side and we hash things out and we fight, all this is kind of rendered nil in a way by how hideously, truly hideous a lot of these new Republicans are. But I do believe in compromise. I really do. I just think it's a much better way to live. You're not hurting other, you know, you're acknowledging other people and that their concerns might be real to them. And, you know.
I like that. My friend says, be kind, do no harm. So you've accomplished a lot with your books and your screenplays and your plays. Rate these three elements on what played the biggest factor: skill, luck, and ambition. What played the biggest second and third factor in your accomplishments?
Well, you make my accomplishments sound a little bit more than they are, but I have written a lot of stuff. But what was it? Ambition,
Ambition, skill, and luck. What played the biggest role second and third?
skill, ambition, and then luck.
Very good. I like that. And T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Gibberish.
Ah, that is good. You got the question. Is perception reality?
It's a reality, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's not, it can be reality or cannot be, but we're very good at fooling ourselves, we humans, aren't we? We're very good at denial, and we're very good at making ourselves look better in our own eyes, not even, and so that perceptions are reality, Denial can be very useful.
McLuhan probed a book by James Joyce called Finnegan's Wake, saying artists dream awake. And not to be elitist, but everyone has this power to create these scenarios while they sleep. But they're implying that also artists do that while they're awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process?
I think somewhat. I don't remember that many, and I used to remember a lot. I had a recurring flying dream for many years, and I think they play an unconscious to us ourselves role. Um, they're operating on a subconscious level, and I think they're working their magic or dark magic or black magic or white magic on us while we sleep.
Yeah. Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, if they're impossible, I can't think. I mean, I don't like to always come back to politics, but it's very much on my mind. And I really, impossible things that could come to pass. I would like to see uh, Black Americans get whatever
Yeah.
they want and whatever they need,
Yeah.
you know.
No, that's beautiful. And in fact, Sun Ra, the great black jazz shaman, said, the impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change. Sebastian,
Where do you get all these quotes? It's amazing.
I just sort of keep my eyes and ears open.
Do you have them on little cards or something, or?
Well, I do have a typed out script in front of me, so some of them are there and some of them are just in my head because they sort of resonate with who I am. So they're just bubbling away there, I guess. But the next question is about you, your creative output. Tell me one major element that's changed since you started, and one major element that stayed the same.
I think more attention. Like I said, I really wrote a lot of my plays. I felt that was the best way to write a play, and I still do, actually. And also works for books if you've got all this pent up stuff that just wants to gush out. I mean, Goodbye Columbus is a Catskill comic rant, book length, and you can just tell it poured out of him. And
Yeah.
so I used to just work that way, and I would sort of feel like, well, if I start doing this and that, cutting it, editing it too much, I'm going to lose that first vibrant core. And I think there is some truth to that, but I've learned now much more to use skill and to use my brain a little bit and to sort of step back a little bit and, to ask myself, what am I trying to accomplish here, and that kind of thing. So I would say that's it.
Good. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you've turned into a strength.
There's so many that I haven't turned into a strength. I think discipline. I used to have no discipline, and I've got a little more discipline now. I'm more conscious, which I guess isn't a weakness, maybe, but I was a pretty narcissistic, solipsistic kid, and I hope that. I mean, I hope that's all gone. I think it is for a long, long time, um, but I think that's been turned into something resembling a strength.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Try and have a little more common sense, asshole.
That's good.
Common sense has been in short supply in my life, I'll tell you. Common sense is yeah, anyway.
That was good. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
When it's used to get something important done.
Yeah. You touched on this a little, but I'm curious, what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I think it's that empathy, and I think it's, I think it's empathy, it's caring. I mean, obviously it's a continuum. They're horrible women and wonderful men, but as a whole, I would say that's it. The empathy. Women give birth. They're more used to seeing blood. They're just, a lot of men go through life without seeing a lot of blood,
Yeah.
and so I'm just passionate about women. Outside the bedroom, of course. That goes without saying.
How do you find peace of mind?
I like to read. I like to walk. Walking is probably my favorite thing. I love to take urban hikes and look at the architecture. And I think exercise is in some ways the secret of life. I do half hour of yoga every day and I walk for an hour every day. Not every day, but, pretty much. And I do, some other exercises at home. I have some free weights or dead weights, whatever they're called. And I put on music and dance around to Cyndi Lauper or Prince, or that's how I find happiness. And I love being with my partner.
Beautiful. Susie's a yoga teacher. Someday I hope we can share a yoga class with
He's
her.
a yoga teacher? Oh my God.
Oh my God, for like 15, 20 years under a tree outside, like 4 blocks from the beach. And I
Wow.
call it old lady yoga because it's just elderly women, but it's the best.
Perfect for me.
Oh, it's perfect for me too. It is just like unbelievable, something I need every week. And you can imagine Susie as a yoga teacher because she is just, yoga teachers are all about the wording, how you put words together to guide people through movements of breathing.
They're very satirical. We went to one for a while. Steve is a real yogi. And she would say things like, "You're only going to do in this class what you do in this class. Think about it." It's like, what the fuck is she only going to do in this? Well, that's pretty. And then there was a heater in the room. And Steve was sitting, she told her it was a crowded class. She said, sitting there by the heater, and he thought he was going to catch fire. It was so hot. And he said something, and she said, "Everybody has an opinion, but not everybody shares it." It's just like, what? Some of them can be quite satirical.
Right. Well, Susie's like this. Okay, look at your feet. Say to your feet, "Hi, feet. I love you, feet. You're beautiful."
Oh, I want to sign up for one of her classes.
Oh, it's free. It's just the most amazing weekly event that
She's full of surprises. What fun
yeah.
at this age to know she's doing something so new and wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she really picked it up and it's just something I need. So, Sebastian, these are 5 quick questions from Alan Watts. Just briefly, you don't have to think too much. Who started it all?
Who started it all? A fish somewhere.
Oh, that is I've never had that answer. Are we going to make it?
Yes, in one form or another.
Where do we put it?
Where do we put what?
You're answering a question with a question. You win. That's what this series is all about. 2 more. Alan Watts. Who's cleaning it up?
Oh God, I want to say not me, because it's a big cleanup job. But future generations are going to be very angry at us.
Is it serious?
Yes. ultimately, I think life is serious, as in addition to being very, very funny and lots of fun. I
Yeah.
think it is.
Can you forget to die?
Can you forget to die? Alan Watts wrote that?
No, this is we're done with the Alan Watts. The Alan Watts was, is it serious? Sorry. This is a new question, yeah, outside the 5 Alan Watts.
And say it again.
Can you forget to die?
You might forget to die, but death is coming for you, baby, one way or the other.
Good answer. On what occasion do you lie?
To save someone's feelings.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Now, this is the kind of level question that I really feel at home with.
Good.
I think it should come over the top. I do enough
That's
bottoming in my life. Oh,
yeah,
never mind.
that's
I
the
didn't
way
say that. What?
that's the way the patent is shown 110 years ago of it going over.
Oh, really?
But
Wow.
you would be amazed. 90% people say over, but there is about 10% of the people I ask that go, no, under.
Maybe they're all left-handed and you've discovered something.
I should keep that in mind. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what title would it be?
What wasn't I thinking? Here it is.
Hello, that's it. I love when the author can actually show it. That's good.
I'll
Now,
show you a picture of my beloved cousin who
oh,
inspired. I've always felt guilty, have tremendous survivor guilt.
you mean Tina?
Tina.
Yeah. Oh, that is beautiful.
Isn't she a beautiful girl?
Oh, that is so nice.
Can't really see it very well, but
No, I can see it very well. Yes, it comes
yeah.
through really good.
She was struck down by
So,
schizophrenia, which is just the worst disease.
yeah. So if that publisher was to ask, Sebastian, we want to scent the glue in the binding, what smell would it be?
We want to scent the glue in the binding. I love that question. I think peppermint, just because it's so up. People,
Yeah.
stay awake reading this tome I wrote.
They also want to print some of the ink not in black. What other color would you want some of the ink to be?
Green.
Nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
I would want it to be displayed. It's such an egotistic, whatever, to think that everybody a statue of me, but of anyone. But I would say San Francisco. That's my great love as a city, and it could be made of some delicious food like fig Newtons or something weird, so people could at least get some pleasure out of it.
Oh, that is a great answer. I've got to tell you, because I don't know if you ever met Susie's parents, because they were amazing. They were really amazing people. And Susie's mom, I asked her that question. If a statue was made in your honor, where would you want it displayed? And she said it would be a mountain stream running over pebbles. So that caused me to add the part, what would it be made of? So that was good. Fig Newton, so people could eat you. That is good. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had and I never want. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Something good that I've never had and I never want. If I was defining it as good, it seems like I would want it. How would you answer that question?
Oh, I'll tell you some of my favorite answers. Actually, this really smart woman I interviewed yesterday said children, which was interesting because she, it's implied children are good. She never had them and she never wants them.
You know what? That's my answer. I'm cribbing her answer.
Yeah. But you want to hear the answer I get the most? Fame, money, and heroin. Those are the three
Wow,
answers I get the most.
that's fascinating. Heroin's not good.
Well, I know, but it's all, I mean, fame could be good or not. Money could be good or not. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you could go feed homeless people, but is that good? So,
That's a
it's
great question.
well, my friend asked Johnny Carson that, and he said sort of what you said. When you figure it out, tell me. I want to know.
With children is perfect because I don't want them and I've never gonna have them and never wanted them.
Yeah,
But I do appreciate how cute they are.
right. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Swim to get the fuck out of that thing, that barrel. Get me
That's
out of here. You know what I do? First, I pick up that shit bag and throw it right back at them.
I got him.
I wouldn't throw it at them. I'd climb out of the fucking vat and smash their head with that shit bag again and again till they pass out in the vomit and die.
You really got the question. I'm so happy. I wish you could have met the guy who taught me that was an Altacocker on Venice Boardwalk. He was in New York. He hung out with Charles Mingus and Billie Holiday. He's one of my heroes. And it's sort of a question. He's like, Damon Runyon.
Yes, of course. Guys and
That's
dolls.
that's who this guy Al was. He was like a Damon Runyon character. And he taught me that question. And it's sort of like a metaphor for life in a way. That's how he would ask it. So, I'll tell you the history is whenever I'm doing one of these interviews live, like in a coffee house or in a gallery, and Susie's there, I have to be really careful because she hates when I ask that question. She's like, no. And yeah, and you have to be careful because some people, it's just not appropriate. I can feel out and I loved how emotionally you got involved because one of my favorite answers to that was, I would never be in a situation like that.
Well, that's a legitimate answer, I guess, but it's a little bit,
Right.
it's a theoretical question, so you should just answer it
But
on
it
that
is
level.
like if you're being smushed down, it's actually also similar to Edgar Allan Poe's short story called Descent into the Maelstrom. And
Huh.
the sailor is in a boat. The boat gets smushed by the bad weather, and he's being swooped down to his death in a whirlpool. And
Wow.
he looks at the broken boat parts around him, and he uses them to swish himself out of the whirlpool. So
Wow.
it's really, this woman actually said that once. She goes, I take the velocity of the bag of shit and use that to swoop myself out of the vat.
I think you have to get a scientist in there to measure all those things and get the weights and everything.
Right. Exactly. So just a couple more. And Sebastian, thank you so much. It's really been fun. And I appreciate you sort of getting what we're after here.
Thank
Joseph,
you.
yeah, thank you. Joseph Boyce said, make the secrets productive. And Lou Welsh, a beat poet, and he was actually an ad man. You'll love this one. He's a beat poet, but he actually did advertising too. And one of his sayings was, raid kills bugs dead. It's like, how's that for beat poetry?
Pretty great.
He said, guard the secrets, constantly reveal them. But it was Thornton Wilder in 1928. He said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 70 minutes. I'm really grateful. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this, but what's it really all about for you?
What's it all about for me?
Yeah.
I'm kind of selfish. I like being content. I'm sorry that I forgot to put that in the other room, but it was when we were having trouble getting on. Um, It's just all about, for me, trying to stay on my equilibrium and enjoy life,
Yeah.
share contented moments, see friends, it's pretty basic for me. Eat well, take care of myself. I'm old enough where I just feel, you know, there's all these mystical people and woo-woos and everything who talk about how you let go of
Yeah.
things, and things fall away. I'll tell you what falls away. Your fucking heart on falls away.
Right. You are a down to earth, real, honest human. I appreciate it, because I've got to add this one, because you evoke this question I skipped. There's a saying that goes, "You create what you resist," and Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into, "You are what you hate." James Joyce said, "It's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve." And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, "Thank God I'm an atheist." So how do you process this? I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but this idea that you create what you resist, or one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
No, I'm not sure I quite understand it. You create what you exist,
No, what you resist.
or what you resist. You
Yeah,
create what you resist.
yeah,
That seems very counterproductive. I mean, why
yeah,
waste time creating something if you're gonna just be resisting it?
right.
Um, so I would say that that's above my pay grade.
Yeah. But again, it's sort of back to, do you feel your creative impulses from a muse, or from your DNA, or from your encounters with humans? I mean, how do you sort of process what gets you to do what you do, your writing?
I just have a lot of guilt if I don't do it. I feel like I have a responsibility to my very limited talent, and I love creating. I love knowing this is going to be done. I recently did 3 books for somebody, and we had a great time. And she would say, "Isn't this incredible? We're going in a year. This is going to be a book." And there's something very satisfying about that. And I've done a lot of comedy, a lot, and make hearing people laugh at your material is, to me, it doesn't get any better than that. I kind of live for that in a way. And this screenplay with having the reading on Saturday is it's totally comic, and I seem to be able to make people laugh when I set my mind to it. So humor and laughter, Mel Brooks is, I believe, 99 or 97. He was in the paper the other day. Comics live forever. There was,
Yeah.
they really do. There was some guy who was in hospice, and he just watched. Who was he? He was famous. This was a
Oh
while ago.
yeah, I know. My mom used to tell me about that. Yeah. He used to watch the Marx Brothers films.
He ran nothing but comedy,
Yeah.
24/7, read comedic things, and just
Yeah.
laughed and laughed. And he lived for a long time.
Yep.
So I
No,
kind of
I
believe in the magic and the power of laughter, and so very,
no, I
very.
agree. I agree with you 100%, because Gurdjieff said laughter is a reconciliation of yes and no. And it's such an important part of my life. That's one thing Susie and I do. We laugh a lot. We're able to get each other's jokes. I'm curious, Sebastian, who did you grow up? Who were your comic sort of heroes growing up? In what form? Was it movies or radio or live, or
It
some
was,
of us?
I would guess it was movies mostly. Someone like Danny Kaye was big when I was growing up. I wasn't exposed to the more fringe people like, Richard Pryor or Mort Saul. I think my parents went to see, but they didn't really influence me. I was more just a kid, wide-eyed kid. I loved Danny Kaye and other people who were in the movies. Um, so
Yeah, Danny Kaye was George Carlin's biggest influence.
really, wow,
Oh
that's
yeah, that's
surprising.
That's who George Carlin wanted to be, Danny Kaye.
Kind of outdid him in some ways.
Yeah. No, that was beautiful. So just a couple more and we're out of here. What a pleasure. What's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
I think younger people are kind of get it. I hope they do. I hope so much they do. But I think they get it about climate change. I think they're going to inherit a world that's got a lot of problems. So, and just, the Republicans, the civil rights movement was a big part of my youth. And my dad was a passionate supporter. And I thought it was settled in this country. We
Yeah.
fought that war many years ago, and yet they were just gone underground. And now they've been released. And I would just love to see young people, and I think they do really. I think young people are much less racist, a whole class of young people. And I do think we've made tremendous progress, but there's still a lot to do.
That's the answer I get the most is young people. That's amazing. And belief in the youth to lead the way. But it did evoke one more question here is Utah Phillips, great activist folk singer, said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, on a totally practical level, I kind of believe in a meritocracy. And I think if you have a well-meaning people in power who surround themselves with well-meaning, intelligent people, you're going to see a society that progresses. And the opposite, of course, you're going to see a society that regresses, which so much of we are doing now. And so that's that.
Yeah. What do you think human moral progress is how I put it, but just humans progressing is more cyclical or more cumulative? Are we going in circles or are we getting better or worse?
I think we're getting better. I really do. I think it's might be too late, really, with climate. It might really be too late. And but I do think there is gradual progress. I think was it Martin Luther King who said the tree of justice bends slowly, or I forget, but
Yeah.
um, uh, I do. I hope. I want to be hopeful. I don't want to be totally nihilistic. I think cynicism is a dead end. I really hate cynicism. It leads nowhere, and
Yeah.
nothing good was ever accomplished when you come at it from a cynical point of view. In my opinion, I'm probably wrong about certain things and certain artists who are very curmudgeonly or whatever. But yeah.
What gives you the most optimism?
Oh, just reading and about solutions, about things that people are doing, about young people getting involved, and just sort of. I think young people really don't see race and different ethnicities. Not everywhere. It really depends where you live, and if you live in a diverse, place, city, town, suburb, whatever. But I do think that's happening. When I dip into pop culture, I can see it. I just sense it, and they're more comfortable with each other. Just sort of a natural. They've grown up together, and so that gives me optimism. And I think when people really realize the threat of climate change, all bets are off. I mean, we might see a real sea change and a demand for accountability and a demand for addressing this existential problem.
Yep. Sebastian, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really
Namaste,
stay
dude.
in bed.
You are incredible. No matter what I said, how inane, you come up with a quote. I don't know where they are in your brain, but they're really fascinating, and it's fun to bounce off. And these are the kind of questions I never ask myself. So,
Well, it's been fun, and I really appreciate your time and energy. And I hope
likewise,
we meet someday in person.
I hope so too. Take good care
Okay,
of
over and out.
yourself and of Susie.
I will take care of Susie. I pledge you that for
Oh,
sure.
that's all I need to know. I can go to bed happy.
I'm
Ciao,
a
my friend. Thank you.
bye.
Bye.